Hey, what's up, guys? It's Zeke back at you with another episode of A to Zeke Sports. I have an awesome episode planned for you guys today. We're going to be diving into a cool topic. Before we get started with that, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe with the bell icon, so you don't miss a single piece of A to Z content. That'll let you know when another episode comes out. And so I was going through YouTube the other day and I saw a video of Skip and Shannon from Skip and Shannon Undisputed debating who was the GOAT of NFL football. So I know I've done an episode on here before of me putting out my list for the top 10 greatest NBA players. So I'm going to sort of go through my list of NFL greatest players and then revealing who I think is the greatest player of all time at the end of my episode. And so when I go through this, I sort of try to go down by positions and try to pick out some of the greatest players from each position. At quarterback, there's so many names to choose from, but I singled out my top three to number 1, Joe Montana, number 2, Tom Brady, and number 3, Peyton Manning. I edged Joe Montana out above Tom Brady because, like Michael Jordan, Joe Montana never lost a Super Bowl. He won 4. He was a 2-time league MVP, and he amounted to over 50,000 passing yards in his career. Tom Brady obviously has more because he has been in more of a passing-centric league, but Joe Montana put up very good numbers in a time of the league when there was not very much passing. And so there are many reasons also that I picked Joe Montana over Tom Brady. And so there were so many names to go through in this. There were so many great quarterbacks, some of them being Dan Marino, John Elway, Brett Favre, Drew Brees, Steve Young, Aaron Rodgers, Terry Bradshaw, Robert Staubach, Johnny Unitas. There's so many quarterbacks to pick from, but those are my top 3. And moving on to running back, my greatest running back of all time is probably Walter Payton. He just had the things he could do on the football field were like any other. I have Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith rounding out the top 3. I didn't include Jim Brown in my top 3 just because in the era he played in, the league wasn't as developed, so there was not as much competition, and it was easier for him to put up the numbers that he did. Emmitt Smith does lead the league all time in yards, and accounted for 3 Super Bowls with the Cowboys. So that was one of his accomplishments with the Cowboys during the 90s. So I have Barry Sanders second because we couldn't really see what his career shaped out to be. He had a very good career through the age of 31 before retiring, so we can't really see what he could have accounted for, but he is definitely in my top 2. A wide receiver, my greatest wide receiver ever is Jerry Rice, followed behind by Randy Moss and Terrell Owens. I think Jerry Rice sort of has the edge over these 2 receivers because he leads the wide receiver category in about every statistical area. He had the most receiving touchdowns, most receptions, most touchdowns accounted for by any wide receiver. He tacked on multiple ones, even on the returning end, and so he ended up with 208 career touchdowns. He also leads all time in receptions made. So that is just, and he also has 4 Super Bowls with Joe Montana and the 49ers. So that's just some of the things that Jerry Rice accounted for in his career, and it was a very spectacular career. I think he's probably in the top 3 all time, but I don't have him as my greatest player ever. I'll be revealing that towards the end of the episode. I think at the tight end position, only one player can really make a legitimate case towards being the GOAT, and that is Tony Gonzalez, who is second all time in receiving yards behind Jerry Rice, and he obviously is the tight end who is accounted for the most yards, and that is just why I have him in the GOAT debate. I don't think any other tight end can really make a claim towards that. The defense of the players that stand out in the GOAT debate are Deion Sanders. Well, for me, Deion Sanders, Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, Mean Joe Green, Dick Butkus, Ronnie Lott. They all have cases for being the greatest defensive player and even greatest of all time. I think Lawrence Taylor really stands out in this group for being the greatest. I think he is the greatest defensive player of all time. And so now we have made it to my top 3 all time for any position. At number 3, I have Joe Montana. And so Joe Montana, really because of being the best quarterback all time, and that is one of the most vital positions on the field, he earned a spot in this top 3. Slightly behind him was Walter Payton, but I don't think Walter really had as much of an edge as getting into the top 3 as Joe Montana did, and that's why he's there. Number 2, I have the great Jerry Rice. He is there because of all the reasons I listed before, how many categories he leads in for wide receivers. And number 1, the last defensive player to ever win the MVP, Lawrence Taylor. I think Lawrence Taylor is the GOAT. He is a 2-time Super Bowl champion. As I mentioned, he is the only. He's the last defensive player to win MVP, and he really does prove that defense does win championships. He really set a tone for how dominant a defensive player could be, and that is why I have him as my greatest player of all time. Moving on to other news, current news right now, the Washington Redskins have decided to change their logo and name from the Redskin and the logo. They're going to work that out right now. They've determined that the Indian community finds name Redskin offensive, and so they've decided to change it. I really don't know. I haven't looked at any information of this, like how the Indian community feels about this, but I think if the Indian community is offended by it, then it is the right choice. And so it'll be interesting to see what names and logo they come out with. In other news, Rajon Rondo of the Lakers has broke his thumb during one of the practices in the bubble down in Orlando. And so he won't be healed up for another 6 weeks. So this does make the quest for a title a little tougher for the Lakers, with Avery Bradley, one of their only true point guards on the team, not coming because of COVID-19 worries, and he doesn't want to bring that into his family. And now with Rajon Rondo, a very talented playmaker and veteran influence, injured, this does kind of make the task tougher on the big 2 of the Lakers, of Anthony Davis and LeBron James. So I will be doing my coverage on that when the playoffs start. When the season restart starts July 31st. I'm also looking to baseball's restart July 25th. So I'll keep you guys updated about that in upcoming episodes. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure again to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for all the support you guys have been giving this channel, and come out with an episode next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time.